Let's be warm that way today. Have we got the live stream going? All right, good morning. Good morning, everyone. You are hearty souls. I really thought we'd have a small crowd today, but I'm so glad we don't, because the more bodies we have in this room, the warmer it's going to be. Plus, really missed you all the past couple of weeks. It was kind of fun to do the live stream experience from home one time. It was sort of fun the second time, but I did think, if I got to do this a third time, I will not be happy. So,
pull dust out of the way.
Good morning. So before we get started, I'd like to invite us all to get grounded, because you may have a little bit of blood pumping a little faster and harder than usual with this cold weather. I'm going to invite us all to take a couple of deep breaths and see if we can settle into this space together. Feel your feet on the ground. And I invite you to say the words in response to the words that I'm going to say that are on the screen. Come as you are, aching, tired, joyful, cold, or seeking. Here we are woven together in love. Set down what you carry except for your blankets, and let this be a place of rest. Here we are held in hope and mercy. Be present to yourself, to the body heat in this room that emanates from each other, and to the divine life that flows through all things. Here together we find the common thread of divine life that connects us all. This common thread of divine life in which we live and move and have our being, our God, who is lover beloved and love overflowing. Amen. When death comes, like the hungry bear in autumn, when death comes and takes all the bright coins from his purse to buy me, and snaps the purse shut, I want to step through the door full of curiosity, wondering, what is it going to be like, that cottage of darkness? I have the
die for it. I could not die for it. Leave my body in the water, early dry baptism, but it felt like burning. If I don't write about it, was it really worth it? I have the dream again, I have the dream again. My ego dies at the end, it's ego death. I live the dream, I guess, still don't know what it meant. Who am I? I've lost the thread. My ego dies at the end. Leave my body and my ego early. Kill it kind with a surgeon's mercy. Claim I put it out of its misery. I have the dream again, I have the dream again. My ego dies at the end, it's ego death. I live the dream, I guess, still don't know what it meant. Who am I? I've lost the thread. My ego dies at the end. Ooh, oh, oh, oh,
Well, good morning, everyone, and again, welcome to Common Thread. If you are here, you belong. That is a core tenet of our community. My name is Sue Kemple. I'm the pastor here if you're new, and we're so thrilled to have you here with us this morning in the room or online. And if you're new, kind of just found us, stumbled in off the street, or however you got here, we would like to invite you to request an email to get a little more information about us. It is zero pressure. It just tells you a little bit more about who we are. And it also gives you the opportunity to request meeting with someone in our community if you want to, because if you really want to know who we are, community is the heart of who we are. Speak with someone who goes here. They'll tell you where we shine, where we are still working to shine a little better, but mostly how transformation is the aim on our spiritual journey. So feel free to go to that QR code, request that email, and we will be happy to send that to you. And if you are here today and you're having a hard time and you even came in this cold weather, we are so glad that you are here. We do life together in this community, and we don't want anyone to have to carry anything hard that they're going through alone. And so we have a few ways in which you can be supported here. After the service, we always have a listener, not always, but most of the time we have a listener who waits in the library down the hall. And today our listener is Cherie, and so she will be down there to hold space for you if you're having a hard time and you just want somebody to listen. And you can have a shoulder to lean on, maybe help you see things from a new perspective. She'll be happy to hold that space for you if that's something that appeals. And of course, we don't just have hard times on Sunday mornings. They come when they come. And so if you go to this QR code and you reach out to us, you'll get connected with our community care team. Morgan leads that effort, and she will get you pointed in whatever direction is the right one to help hold the space for the need that you have in that moment. So please, let's do community together because we can. And so let's say together as a community, as we do each week, and let's say it with real conviction. And if you do that, by the way, your body will get a little bit warmer, I promise. So please repeat after me. If you are here, you belong. If you are here, you belong. We are every one of us carriers of the inner light.
We are every one of us carriers of the inner light.
And we are every one of us carriers of divine breath. And so I invite you to get up, move those bodies, and connect with other carriers of inner light and divine breath and warm up. All right, and as you make your way back to your seats,
When I die, let me be a bird so I can fly far from this world. I'll fly so high. When I die, let me be a bird. And when I die, let there be a home that's warm and dry, that I can call my own, big enough to share. When I get there, let there be a home. Ooh, when I die, let me be a bird. Ooh, when I die, let there be a home. While I'm alive, let there be peace. Let these cries of anger cease. Far and wide, before I die, let there be peace. Ooh, when I die, let me be a bird. Ooh, when I die, let there be a home. Ooh, while I'm alive, let there be peace. Far and wide, before I die, let there be peace.
well, another one of the hallmarks of our community is that we have a lot going on. And so you can see here just a few things that are coming up. The one thing I want to draw your attention to is Life Story Group Formation, which is slated to happen after the service today. Right, Ashley? And Ashley's going to be in charge of that. So if you want to be part of a Life Story group, we're just going to ask you to stay for a few minutes longer. It won't take that long. We're going to try and do it geographically the way that we did last time, and you'll know exactly where to go and get those groups set up. Life Story groups are one of the foundational ways in which we build community here. And so if you've not done it, I just invite you to consider doing it today. And if you've done it before, consider doing it again. Every life story group is different. You hook up with new people. You tell your story differently every time because our stories are always changing. That's kind of how life goes. So, life story groups after the service today. Also, we got a few cool things coming up. There's going to be a book discussion. I guess we're doing all of our book studies online now. So February 24th, I think. What's the name of that book? The Starless Sea. If you're interested in participating in a book discussion, get a hold of the copy of that book and join that group. And then there's game night at Dawn's house. I've been to, it wasn't an official game night, but I have played one of these games at Dawn's house. Ticket to Ride. I think it was a lot of fun, actually. So she's got room for 10 people. If you're interested in a game night, make sure that you register so she knows how many to expect and how to plan for that. And, of course, as always, if you missed anything I said, if you missed what was on that other screen, you want to find out what's going on, you can always find out one of three ways. You can find out in the Church Center app, on the website, or the weekly email that goes out every Thursday. And I just wanted to draw your attention to next Sunday. So next Sunday is going to be a little bit of a different Sunday. We did this last year, and we're going to do it again this year. Last year we did it in conjunction with a Saturday retreat. So this year it's going to be a little more condensed, but we're going to spend about an hour thinking about who we are becoming and who we want to become. Chris Knox is coming up from Charleston. Hey, Chris, I bet you're on the live stream right now. Excited to see you here. And he and Ashley are going to work together. I really am going to step back. This is the one time each year that I step back and really don't have anything to do with it other than I listen. And I want to listen to what's on your heart. And I thought it might be helpful to put some of the questions out there, the big 5 questions that we're going to discuss that we discussed last year. And so even before we talk about this year, we're going to see how well we did in terms of living into these stated intentions last year, these aims. And I'll just read them to you. Last year we asked if we were to dream big, what is the divine inviting us to become this next decade? But we're just going to stick to this year. We're just going to talk about 2026. Between now and next year's listening session, what is the divine inviting us to become? What do we want people to feel in their bones when they walk into this place? What do we want them to feel? What are we being invited to carry forward in a new way? What is at the heart of belonging in this community? And what would you say if someone asked, what is your church about, or why do you go there? It's a weird little church. Why do you go? So if you could just sort of have these questions in mind this week, we'll post them in the app so we make sure that you still have access to them. But just be thinking about that before you come here next Sunday, because we are a community that grows together. We are a community-owned community, and this is never about one person or one team or anybody who makes decisions without listening to what everybody's input is. We become together, and so it's really important if you have something that you want to share on your heart, we really want to hear it. So next week, that's what we'll be doing here, and I'm very much looking forward to listening to you. Now, last week, if you were watching the live stream, whether it was live or later in the week, you saw we did something a little different. We had a joint message. I'd never done that before, but Melissa and I kind of tag team for the lesson. It was really lovely, and I was so grateful to have the opportunity to do that. Melissa has recently completed a training course as a death doula. And it's a very, she spoke about that last week, so if you didn't listen, go back and have a listen so you can get a little bit of an understanding of her perspective and where she's coming from in that work. But when she and I sat down one evening to kind of talk through what it was we were going to do, she brought up a meditation that is really can help us befriend death. And I thought it was lovely, and I think she adapted it a little bit, but I invited her today to come and share that with us. So Melissa's going to lead us in our contemplative practice, and I would like to invite you over here to do that now, Melissa. And I'm going to make this microphone a lot taller so that she can speak into it and you can hear her. We have self-awareness after church. And by the way, that's not going to be in room 209. It will be downstairs in the contemplative room where we have some heat.
Can I just hold it? I'm going to hold it. All right, friends. So as we begin our contemplative practice this morning, I would invite you to go ahead and close your eyes if that feels good, or if not, just simply let them rest softly at a spot on the floor in front of you. Begin to feel your body here in this space. sitting tall in your chair, perhaps becoming aware of your spine that holds you upright, holds you together. This anatomical axis that holds the heart and cradles the mind. As you inhale, can you begin to sense the energy moving up your spine, intensifying in the heart, and continuing up as it extends out the crown of your head. At the same time, can you feel your seat on the chair, your feet on the floor? As you exhale, can you sense the energy moving down your spine? Grounding energy extending out from your pelvis and feet, rooting you to the ground. Can you sense even the slightest softening as you relax and release into that grounded support? Energy moving up, reaching and expanding. Energy moving down, anchoring and grounding. As you continue to breathe, can you stay sensing this energy that is constantly and simultaneously moving in, circulating through, and moving out of you in all directions? And before we go too much deeper into this meditation, I want to offer here a gentle reminder as we move forward. Because today's meditation is a meditation on death, on impermanence. And that is a truth that for some, if not most of us, can be very uncomfortable to sit with. We will take it slow, moving gently, leaving space for grace, for breath. But if at any point you find yourself feeling unsettled or disturbed, I would offer two invitations. The first invitation is to move at the pace of your own nervous system. Listen to your body and honor what it needs. You can always return to breath whenever you need to. The second invitation, if you find yourself feeling challenged or uncomfortable, I would remind you that uncomfortable doesn't necessarily mean bad or dangerous. Oftentimes, when we find ourselves feeling the sensations of discomfort or unfamiliarity, our inclination is to back off, to go back to where it is comfortable. Our brains convince us that safety resides solely in the familiar. But like a muscle being stretched, learning to find space in tight and tense places, growth is sensational. We practice meditation in order to learn to stay with what arises. We practice breathing into the sensation rather than bypassing it. We learn to get curious and ask, what is here for me? So once more, I would invite you to sense that grounded space. If it feels supportive, you can even place one hand on your heart and the other hand under your diaphragm on your low belly, grounding and signaling to your nervous system that you are safe and can relax. Once more, taking notice of your breath, inhaling energy up, exhaling energy down, connected, present, rooted. It is from here that we will begin to invite in and hold space for this truth. All of us will die, sooner or later. Death is inevitable. No one is exempt. In a teaching by 11th century Tibetan Buddhist Atisha, this is the first contemplation of death. All of us will die, sooner or later. Death is inevitable. No one is exempt. Breathe. Bring awareness to any sensations. Get curious with what is arising. Curiosity does not require answers. Curiosity only requires compassion. Curiosity without compassion is judgment. Get softer. Perhaps what you're noticing are all the ways in which the mind is trying to avoid sitting with the inevitability of death. And there in that too is an opportunity to practice self-compassion and even gratitude. Thank you for trying to protect me, but we are safe. Using any arising sensations. Inhale. I find refuge in and am grateful for the experience of this earthly body. Exhale. I practice letting go. Inhale. I find refuge in and am grateful for the experience of this earthly body. Exhale. I practice letting go. As we sit with this truth, as we become more comfortable with its inevitability, can we begin to see how the truth of our dying has the divine capacity to inform our living? Death is not the enemy. Death is the vessel for transformation. Beginning to let this first contemplation of death dissolve in your mind's eye, and turning your attention once again to the life-giving flow of each inhale and exhale as it moves through you. Focusing your attention to that ever-flowing energy that is always circulating throughout every fiber of your being and beyond. That energy that physics so gracefully reminds us can neither be created nor destroyed, only changed from one form to another. Honoring the connection to all humans who have died and have contemplated death before you, I invite you to wiggle your fingers and toes, connect with your life-giving breath, and when you're ready, open your eyes. I close my eyes only for a moment, and the moment's gone. All my dreams pass before my eyes with curiosity. Dust in the wind, all we are is dust in the wind. Same old song, just a drop of water in an endless sea. All we do crumbles to the ground, though we refuse to see. Dust in the wind.
So, I am really excited to introduce a good friend of mine here this morning who's going to deliver the message today. And it was interesting, I couldn't find a picture of the two of us together, but what I could find were two pictures at an event that we both attended, I think 10 years ago, the Death Fair in Pittsburgh, which I think is still a going concern. But we were out here repping our distinct organizations. Heather is a funeral director at Renaissance Funeral Home, and I was leading a startup called My Last Soundtrack. Not going to tell you about it right now, but if you're curious, you can ask me later. But I met Heather, I got introduced to her and just instantly loved her, really connected with her. She's just fun and she's funny. I've never met anybody who likes French fries more than this woman does. But I was going through a hard time myself when I met her, actually. And Heather, I've had experiences with folks in funeral homes before, and it's always been a challenge for me sometimes to connect with them. And there was something very different about Heather, this sense of compassion and empathy. And, I came to learn very quickly that she had been, not too long before I met her, widowed with 3 young children. Her husband died suddenly, and she raised those kids on her own. And, I will never recommend anybody to anyone other than Heather when the time comes that they need somebody in the funeral space. She is just a remarkably loving, kind person, and she really believes strongly in the power of shared experiences to bring people together. Death is another part of life. I've often said I think it's probably the most profound moment of our lives, and Heather really honors that. So I'm so glad that she's coming up here to speak with us all today, and would you please join me in giving her a warm welcome. Come on up, Heather.
I have one picture of us together.
Oh, you do?
I don't know where it is, but I do have one.
I remember what to press there.
Yep. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me share this space with you today. Closer?
Get it closer to your mouth.
Okay, better? It keeps wanting to move away. All right. So as Sue said, over the past few weeks, you've been laying the spiritual foundation and thinking about death. You've been invited to see it as meaningful and sacred and something that you shouldn't turn away from. But meaning needs a place to land. And what I want to offer today is a practical side that supports that foundation, because spiritual insight is powerful, but it needs a place to land in real life. My work puts me in rooms where death is no longer abstract. And what I've learned is this: most of the difficulty people have with death doesn't come from death itself. It comes from how little practice we have in talking about it and thinking about it and letting it be a part of our lives until we're forced to. Oops. Communities like this one are uniquely positioned to change that, because this is a place where hard questions are allowed to happen, where doubt isn't punished and where meaning is explored instead of dictated. If you're sitting here thinking, I'm spiritual, but this still feels uncomfortable, it's okay. You're normal. We weren't taught how to talk about death. We were taught how to whisper about it or joke about it or avoid it all entirely. When we name death figuratively and literally, the silence becomes easier to bear. Because silence around death doesn't protect us, it isolates us. It makes it less tangible, and it's hard to grieve something that isn't tangible. And in my work, I sit with people at the table who never use the word die, and yet they're expected to make hard decisions and have clarity and be emotionally regulated in order to make those decisions. So I kind of want to give you an example of what witnessing death really looks like from my perspective. And then I want to show you a place where these conversations can happen. I know that it's really important to talk about this and share my experience because I've sat with hundreds of families, maybe in the low thousands. In the first raw hours of grief, while they're planning a funeral and they're trying to understand that their life has just changed. I know this not only as a funeral director, but as Sue said, I've sat on the other side of that desk. I'm a wife who has taken care of her husband's death, and I am also a daughter who has held her father's hand the moment he died. So what I'm about to share with you isn't theory. It's what sitting in those rooms professionally and personally has slowly taught me. And the theme of this is that there's no single way that death feels. There's only the truth of the relationship and the truth of the moment that people are living inside. I'll give you a few examples. I've sat with a mother whose son died after years of addiction. Her heart was broken. It was completely broken. At the same time, she said something very, very quiet to me. She was grateful that he was no longer struggling. For the first time in years, she actually knew where he was. She'd spent sleepless nights not knowing where he was, not knowing if he was, as they say, lying in a ditch somewhere or in jail. She actually knew where he was, and that brought her peace. Both were real, and neither cancel each other. And this matters because that moment teaches us that love is not pure the way we imagine. Real love can hold grief and relief at the same time. And when families feel that mixture, it doesn't mean that they loved less. It means that suffering was real and the love is real too. I sat with a daughter whose mother lived many, many years with dementia. And by the time the death came, she told me it felt different, not like a regular death, because she had already been grieving for a long time. The person that she knew, the memories that she had with her mother, those had already disappeared. So when that death finally came, there was sadness, but a huge sense of relief. Not because the love was small, but because that goodbye had been unfolding in slow motion. And this matters because it teaches us that grief does not always begin at death. Sometimes it begins years earlier, in small, invisible losses that no one else can see. And we understand that when we become gentler with many different ways that people mourn. This is a tough topic, but suicide. I see a lot more suicide than I ever thought I would. I've sat with families after a death by suicide, and let me add this. Please change the verbiage around the word suicide. We commit crimes, we don't commit suicide. Changing that language helps us find that peace. The rooms of families that have loved ones that died by suicide, those rooms are filled with guilt, with anger, and unbearable love. And sometimes beneath all of that, there is another quiet truth that people are afraid to say. That the person that they loved had been in so much pain for such a long time. That part gives them hope that the person they loved was finally at peace. Shame and peace living in the same breath. This matters because it teaches us that grief is not tidy. Human hearts try to make meaning inside even the most painful stories. When we allow space for both sorrow and relief to exist, we remove shame and make room for compassion. And finally, I have also unfortunately had to sit with many mothers and fathers who have lost a baby, or a baby was born sleeping. Grieving not only the life that ended, but the life that never had a chance to unfold. Futures that will never arrive, and yet even there, parents sometimes hold on to one small truth. Their child only knew love, only warmth, and only being held. And this matters because it teaches us that meaning doesn't erase loss, but sometimes even the smallest truth that a life was loved becomes sacred enough to carry unbearable grief forward. Not healing the loss, but helping love survive it. Sitting in these rooms have taught me something I could never learn any other way. Death is never just one thing. It's as complicated as love. It's not a single emotion, a landscape. It's where sorrow and relief, anger, peace, guilt, and gratitude can all exist at the same time. Not because families are confused, it's because they're human. What I really want you to know, and this is the part that's really important, there's no single right way to face death. There's no single right way to grieve. And whatever mixture of feelings living inside your story, it's belonged, it's allowed, and it's human. So, how do we talk about these things? When we begin to understand the humanity of death and we stop trying to feel the right thing and start trying to tell this truth instead, fear softens just enough for conversations to become possible. And when conversations become possible, community can begin. One of those places that I've seen that happen most clearly is in something called Death Cafe. I didn't name it. Death Cafe is an international program which is an open table discussion talking about death and dying. It started in England, and a gentleman named John Underwood started this under the teachings of another gentleman named Bernard Cortaz. And there have been hundreds of thousands of these meetings all over the world. And they are really growing, and it's really great that people are finding a community to speak. One of the most powerful things I've witnessed isn't in a hospital or in a funeral home. It's in a circle of ordinary people with coffee, cookies, tzatziki's, and permission to be honest. It doesn't try to solve death. It simply removes the rule that we're not allowed to talk about it. And the moment the rules disappear, something surprisingly happens. People exhale. They ask questions they've been carrying for years. They say the name of someone who died without whispering it. They admit fears they thought were strange and discover that everyone else has them too. What brings the silence out isn't information, it's permission. So once a death becomes speakable, grief becomes shareable, and when grief is shareable, people don't feel quite so alone. But the truth is, you don't need to come to Death Cafe, although you're all welcome. You can have these conversations. You just need to start with one brave sentence and someone willing to stay in the room when that is said. Death Cafe, as I said, is only one kind of room, but the invitation is that these can happen at a kitchen table, on a walk, or in the car when you're driving so you don't have to make eye contact. And they can't get out of the car either. I've not used that. Okay. And so I've hit on different types of grief and why we need to talk about it, but I also want to get one point across as to why we want to talk about it. It's because our choices at the end are changing too. The people's choices that they're making at the end of life are shifting, not medically, but personally, spiritually, and ethically. More and more people are asking, what do I want my final act to say? Because the way we care for our bodies when we're finished using them can be more of a practical decision. It can be a statement, it can be an act of love, and it can even be a quiet form of protest. A way of saying, this is what I believe matters, even at the end. And once people begin to see their final wishes as meaningful, not just procedural, everything starts to shift. The questions they ask, the rituals they choose, the way they want their bodies returned to the world. And that shift is already happening quietly all around us. From choosing green burial, which is natural burial, no embalming, biodegradable casket, no vault. It's also cremation. We're all familiar with cremation. Maybe you want to be cremated, leave a small impact on the environment, and have your cremated remains spread somewhere beautiful in the ocean or dust in the wind, whatever you choose. Alkaline hydrolysis, cremation by water. Yes, that's a thing. You can have your body cremated with either flame or water. And natural organic reduction, which is body composting. It's not legal here yet. It is in the hippy-dippy states over there in the West Coast, but hopefully it will move here. And this is kind of like green burial, but not underground, and it produces very enriched soil that can be placed in a national park. My goal here today isn't to go over each one of these and explain all the nuances. Maybe that can be another talk another time. But I just want to convey the importance of thinking about and talking about what you want done with your body when you're done using it. Where these choices are made. The beautiful thing about this question is these choices don't have to wait for a crisis. They don't have to begin in a hospital room or the hardest week of somebody's life. They can begin much earlier and much more gently in conversations that start out with curiosity instead of urgency. And my quiet hope is that maybe the words I've shared in this room today mean that for some of you. These choices don't start someday, maybe they start today. Maybe they start by providing less fear, more honesty, and fuller lives. When we allow ourselves to talk honestly about death, something unexpected happens. The fear doesn't disappear completely, but it softens. Silence doesn't control the conversation anymore, honesty does. And strangely, when we stop pretending we have forever for the life that we have right now, our current life becomes more vivid, more intentional, more real. Less fear, more honesty, fuller lives. That's the quiet invitation on all of this. Not to focus on dying, but to live more awake while we're here. Thank you for letting me share this space with you today. Thank you, Sue. Thank you.
Test. Now you can hear me. So this seems like another good time to remind you that we have a grief support group opportunity. And to Heather's point, sometimes we don't want to talk about our grief either. And there's something about that feels scary or weak. And the fact is, we all grieve. We all grieve. Not just death, but death in particular is a very poignant kind of grief. And so if you are grieving something in your life right now, you're grieving the loss of someone you love, just encourage you to click on the QR code here and indicate, I think what we're still looking for are preferences in terms of time and place and format. So we're only gonna offer one group, so we want to see whether most people want online or in person and what days or evenings work best. So if you can go there and just kind of see what the options are and see if that's something that would work for you, we really invite you to do that. Heather Olson, who led our trauma support group last year, is going to be leading this one. And so we just invite you to go ahead and indicate your preferences if that's something that you think would be supportive for you. But Living the Beatitudes. We still have more books out there. If you haven't got yours, please pick it up. As soon as they're all gone, we're going to move the platform on this book to Amazon and see if we can get the word out to some people about who we are. So these are a gift. Some kind folks put a little note in there that said donations are welcome, and they are, but I didn't put that in there. It really is a gift for all of you from last year's sermon series. So grab your book if you haven't gotten it, if you want it. Again, no coercion in the book snagging life either. Folks on the live stream, so glad that you joined us this morning from your warm homes. We're so glad that you're here. And if you're new and you want to know a little bit more about what's going on, the best way to do that is to join something that's going to happen online that we do here in the room as well, called What Are You Thinking, Sensing, and Feeling, where we're going to talk about today's message, talk about the service, talk about how cold we are, talk about what's going on in our lives and what's going on in the world. So we invite you to do the online version of that. If you'll click the link below, it'll take you to a Google Meet. And the remote community that we have, some of the best folks I know, would love to welcome you to their conversation. So feel free to join. If you're in Raleigh and you stayed home today, hey, we all did What Are You Thinking online last 2 weeks together. It was a lot of fun. And our remote community folks were especially happy to have us in the room. So feel free to join and have that conversation. And if you're not watching live or you're not really down for talking with anybody this morning, that's okay too. You can go to the link below. And again, request a newcomer email. It's not dissimilar to the one that I mentioned earlier for newcomers, but this one talks a little more about what it's like to be part of our community when you are remote. So I invite you to do that. And with that, friends here in the room, let's put our hands on our very warm hearts. And remember that the divine is in us. That divine life that connects all of us to each other in these mortal lives and in the greater life beyond. And we are called to cultivate the fruit of the Spirit that is there: patience, kindness, goodness, joy, love. Let's cultivate those things this week so that we can share them with everyone in our world. And let's extend our other hand to our city and to our world, committing as we do each week to share what is in us with everyone with whom we live, with whom we work, with whom we go to school, everyone we bump into on the street, taking seriously as we do our charge to be healers and repairers of our world. Amen. Folks on the live stream, God bless you. You are dismissed. And folks in the room, I invite you to just take a moment to get grounded again and get in touch with what you are sensing and feeling before we talk about what we are thinking.